Hi everyone, it's Vlad. I am wearing hijab, but I am not Muslim. I can't claim to be a Muslim because although I do believe in one God, I don't know enough about the faith really to say that I'm a Muslim. I did touch very briefly on this last week, and I'm going to talk about it a little more this week. I am a highly spiritual person, but the main reason I'm wearing hijab is because my hair is disastrous today. And in case you're wondering, these earrings are actually Mogen David's because I'm Jewish. Well, I'm Jewish, Christian, and Buddhist and a little Wiccan. This week we're talking about relationships. What my spirituality has to do with relationships is essentially that when I was a kid, I didn't have any friends. I mean, never mind relationships, I just didn't have friends. I sought around to try to figure out why. And the real reason, as it turns out, is that I'm autistic and I didn't get along very well with people when I was a kid. I didn't have social skills. I wasn't rude or anything, but I was extremely awkward and I didn't have the social timing down. I was made to believe that I was a really bad kid by my parents, by authority figures, and of course by my peers. And so I went into a lot of therapy. And when I was in therapy, I had a natural inclination towards spirituality anyway, but I started to question what it is to be a good person. And, what does it mean to be a friend to somebody? How do you treat another person so that they'll want to stick around and be friends? I mean, this was way before anybody understood that what I needed was just basic social skills lessons. So instead, I went on this way long spiritual journey, which actually I don't regret. I just wish I'd had both, the spiritual journey and the social skills lessons. But as it was, I had only the one. One of the things I started to learn about relationships with people, whether it was friendships or emotional and romantic type of relationships, was that in order for the relationship to be healthy, and again, I should also include not just friendships outside of romance, but also your family, your siblings, your parents, your children, if you have them. One of the things I started to learn was that you have to learn how to see, or I had to learn how to see the spark of the divine in the other person. And if you're an atheist, you could liken this to the the real person inside of the body. When you're looking into their eyes, who is it behind those eyes, really? I spent quite a few years just learning about all these different faiths, and I read M. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, which I loved. That's a modern psychology treatment of some of the same principles of treating other people with respect and kindness, owning your own boundaries, and learning to see things from another person's perspective and take other people's opinions and feelings into consideration. And this is one of those things that's really, really essential if you want to have a relationship with somebody that is romantic and therefore as intense as a sexual relationship, or maybe not in the same way. Because what differentiates a romantic relationship from a friendship? Especially amongst people who want to be romantic but aren't interested in cuddling. I, over the years, have figured out that for me, this is the thing that is the bond between me and any of my friends or my family. And so it's very hard for me, even though I cuddle with my family occasionally. I mean, I hug them. My family aren't very touchy feely or cuddly, but I mean, I'll give them a big hug or put my arm around their waist while we're standing there talking to somebody else. I do the same thing sometimes with my friends. So a romantic partner and my behavior might not be very different from a friendship or a family relationship. Furthermore, the way that I try to respect the person that I'm in a relationship with, friendship or family member, is going to be pretty much the same. So I remember talking about this about 2 or 3 days ago with a good friend who said, well, then what's the difference? And I said, well, I guess it's a matter of designation. My very best friend in the world, Eric and I have designated it that we're not a couple, mainly because he doesn't feel comfortable with the idea that we're a couple, even though he doesn't have anybody else in his life like me. And I don't have anybody else in my life like him. We don't get together that often. We get together maybe once every couple of weeks. I guess if we were romantic partners, given we live so close together, we probably would get together more often. It would be more than just movies once in a while. And well, the thing is, we also do something that most of my other friends and I don't do, which is we have silk cuddle fests. He gets into his silk long johns, same as mine, and I get into mine, and then I bring out my silk comforter, and then it's all silk, oh, silk, rubbing against each other and holding each other, and then we maybe watch a movie at the same time. And, that is definitely something I wish I could do with a romantic partner, an asexual romantic partner. I might add that he's sexual, but you can tell when a guy is turned on, especially if he's wearing silk long johns. Fortunately, he's not. He's never been turned on in any of these situations, so I've never felt the least bit threatened or felt like I was leading him on or anything like that. He's a lot like a lot of the aromantics on Avon, except that he happens to be sexual. But in that, not that he's against having a relationship, but he's very happy not being in a relationship. That works for him. I'd say I'm happy, but not because I'm not in a relationship. I mean, I have a certain level of happiness because of my spiritual life, whether that has to do with my other relationships or not. But last year, when I had my relationship with Gwen, it was really a revelation for me because I was so much happier being in a relationship than not. So, although I knew I could be happy alone, I also knew that in the long run, I'd really like to find somebody or have somebody wash up on my shore or something like that. I think that it was well said earlier in the week that it's it's not such a great idea to go looking for romance so much as let it find you. And I'm a firm believer in that because Gwen and I were very happy together, and that relationship just happened. It fell in my lap. And I don't really feel like moping around going, oh, I don't have a relationship because, if I try to make it happen, it's not going to be with the right person maybe, or it won't be, it'll be all kinds of compromises will have to have been made on my part at least for it to happen at all. And I don't want to be with somebody that I'm only lukewarm about. I want to be with somebody I really feel compassionate, or automatically compassionate with. Somebody that I don't have to work at it to feel compassionate towards. Which does bring me to another subject, and that has to do with in love versus coming to love somebody. There's a wonderful line in Sunrise Sunset from Fiddler on the Roof line, but it has to do with learning to love each other, and this is in the context of arranged marriages, not something I necessarily endorse. But the idea was that, I don't remember exactly, the couple would come to love one another after having gotten to know one another. So instead of being in love and having that spark that, inevitably will die out, and then having to be replaced by learning to love one another, which is a lot harder, really, if you think about it, than if you have no emotional feelings towards one another, other than you find each other somewhat acceptable if your parents are kind and let you refuse the ones you don't want to marry. You start out from a low expectations level, and then it grows. And as you get more and more compassionate towards one another, then the love grows over time. So I'm running low on time here, and so I want to tell you about one of my favorite scriptural passages. This happens to be from the Christian Bible, but I know that there are similar ones in other scriptures out there. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious, boastful, arrogant, nor rude. It does not insist on getting its own way. It is not irritable nor resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love is eternal. And for those of you who know my last name and might find this amusing, love never dies. That's basically how I feel about love. And that's the way I think that it works best in any relationship, sexual, asexual, or family or friends.